Tidbits. This is Carrie, setting you up today with a little episode in handling challenging situations. Talking to a group yesterday, I'm like, we don't have challenging people, do we? No, challenging situations. Good morning, Beth. Good morning, everyone. Loving, guys, I love seeing where you're joining from. I'm joining you from freezing cold. I know we're all freezing cold. Selkirk. Truth is, guys, I brought my heating pad to my little office space today, and so yeah, I'm staying warm that way. Good morning, Michelle. Good morning, everyone. So great. So today's episode, handling challenging situations. I'm sure if we had the opportunity to hang out in a room together, we could spend the first, 3 hours discussing all of the challenging situations we've come across in our lives. Am I right? As a reminder, our vision at WEM is that all Manitobans have access to the essential skills, knowledge, and training required to determine and pursue their goals related to learning, the workplace, and life. Oh, it's so great. Yes, keep telling us where you're from. We have a wonderful full group today. It's so beautiful. Our essential skills we're hitting on today, friends, are oral communication, working with others, and thinking skills. Now, we think about this, and feel free to chime in the chat. What are the benefits of being able to handle a challenging situation? What sorts of great things do we get from being able to do this? Good morning, Linda. Yeah, we get, thanks, Felicia. Yes, loyal customers. How about that? What else? I think of that when you say loyal customers, the word that comes to mind for me is consistency. So if one of the things we need to handle a challenging situation is a healthy dose of emotional intelligence or our social awareness. And part of that is that consistency. Yeah. Our staff feels safe. Good morning, Ruby. Yes. Confidence, increased profitability, clear communication. We're not walking on eggshells. Have any of you show a thumbs up? Have you ever had that in your workplace, whether with customers, internal or external, where we're like, I don't really know what situation I'm walking into right now? And so it can be a really difficult, yes, thank you. This can be a really difficult situation. And so how am I going to handle it? You think about the old saying, just sweep it under the rug. Well, pretty soon we end up with this really nasty, lumpy, dirty rug, don't we? If we keep sweeping those issues under the rug. Thanks, Zachary. Yes. So being able to handle these challenging situations is a great benefit for us as individuals, for our teams, for our business, for our customers and coworkers. Yes. Welcome, Amy. We're just getting started, so all good. Now, question, are you seeing repeat issues? These challenging situations, are we attacking them again and again and again? If the answer is yes, is it possible? There's a few things that could be happening here. One, the very first one I ask, are we treating symptoms or the actual cause of the conflict and of the problem? Because if we're only hitting on the symptoms, we're not actually getting to the root cause. Think about the example I give of a headache. Some of you already know what I do when I have a headache. Well, grab an Advil or two. Find one of those awake chocolates. I know I should really be a spokesperson for them. They've got just a smidge of caffeine in them, and for whatever reason, that caffeine brings me to life and helps to eliminate the headache. So what do I do the next day? Well, I have a headache, so I know how to treat that. I take my Advil, find an awake chocolate at the bottom of my bag, and away we go. And then we continue this cycle. But what's the problem? What's the actual issue? Well, I've never really addressed it because I'm only attacking those symptoms. Okay? So you take a problem in the workplace like absenteeism. Guess what, friends? Absenteeism isn't the problem. Absenteeism is a symptom of a deeper problem. So sometimes when we're looking at like, oh my gosh, we're going through this again and again and again, is it possible that I didn't actually get to the root? Or is it possible that I don't have a clear way around this problem or through this problem? Lots of different options there. Talk about this word active listening. Some of you know how I feel about it. Let's get rid of the active and just call it listening. Really, when it comes down to handling these challenging situations, whether internal or external customers, we need to ignore the distractions. And the truth is, something I'm learning as I get to be an old lady is that distractions are just that. They're distracting us from getting to the real root of the problem. So being able to ignore distractions and be able to really focus on the person, we call it listening with ting. So ting, T-I-N-G, is listening with ears, with our eyes, with our heart, right? All of these things so that we are actually focusing on what the person is saying and listen for those key words. Try to connect with them. We want to make sure that we understand what our customer, and you can see we have that in quotations, so that customer could be anybody, right? It could be your mother-in-law, your customer could be a child, it could be your actual customer or client, it could be your team member. But we want to make sure that we understand what they are saying. So what do? We ask questions to clarify. And even if it is going to make us look kind of less educated, we still ask questions because we're trying to seek clarity. And as our friend Dennis says, clear is kind. Am I right? So becoming an active listener requires action. We attend to their nonverbals, that eyes, body language, tone of voice, all of the things. So even the words, right? Cue that you're getting the message. Tell the customer what you've heard. So in other words, Mr. Jones, blah, 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 blah. Because sometimes when we're in a challenging situation, we'll talk more about this in our EI session, emotional intelligence. Sometimes in that heat of the moment, that emotional brain is like spinning wildly out of control. And thinking brain is trying to tap, tap, tap at the door to bring in a rational thought. Same thing is happening for us. You better believe it's happening for them. And so when we're both in that higher state of emotion, it can be really difficult to get to the real message. Are there any missing pieces of information? Are we keeping our mind open to possibilities and opportunities? Again, is it possible? And then, of course, noticing the customer's response. We become really great as savvy communicators as we are able to understand that body language, tone of voice. The problem is right now in our world, and probably even before the COVID came, we are dealing online. So we're dealing in messages, we're dealing in texting, we're dealing in emailing, and we're missing 55% of the message through body language. Thank goodness for tone, hey? Now, when we are in that heat of the moment, we really need to focus on quieting that emotional brain and tuning into our thinking brain. So that distraction, again, stop what you're doing, pay attention to the speaker. Talk about this in body language. Where are your feet? Yeah, your feet. Where are they facing? So when I'm dealing with someone, I'm talking with someone, interacting, my feet should be pointed towards them. Now, even right now, I have my feet pointed towards my computer because that way, well, I'm an easily distracted person. It helps me to stay focused on where I am. We listen silently. We're not listening and waiting for our turn to speak or inserting our own hidden agendas. No, we're just listening and encourage the person to talk, especially our indirect communicators, by connecting with sounds or phrases. Okay, I see. And gather information using empathy. Again, preview to emotional intelligence here. If we can use empathy when dealing with difficult situations, we will be further ahead and less frustrated, and guaranteed they will be as well. Now we have to ask ourselves, is conflict all that bad? What do you guys think? Is conflict terrible? Leading question. No, conflict doesn't have to be awful, but when it's dysfunctional, it surely is. Conflict is only undesirable when it is destructive and dysfunctional. Healthy conflict brings innovation, understanding, amazing problem solving, brainstorming, opportunities. We have to look again, where is this conflict actually coming from? Many of us would say, well, there's miscommunication, perceptions, lack of resources, time, money, people, and misinterpretation. So that perception and misinterpretation. Negative conflict creates an environment of fear, frustration, distrust, and avoidance. Hands up if we've ever been in this situation. Hello, I have. And it causes lower back sweats, right? Headaches. People become physically ill from that negative conflict. And asking ourselves, again, is it possible? Have I been jumping to conclusions? Am I telling myself a story about the situation that isn't necessarily based in fact? Do I lack listening, or am I a selective listener? Sorry, thinking about my grandpa for a moment there. Avoidance. Am I avoiding the problem? Do we have poor communication? Do I lack empathy, humility? Is my big fat ego getting in the way? Am I unable to see past myself? Probably, if we're still continuing to see conflict again and again and again. Now, empathy, we know, is being able to, or at least work towards, trying to see a situation from someone else's view. Brene Brown, you guys, if you know, right? Her video on empathy versus sympathy, it's about making a connection with someone. Empathy is often missing when dealing with conflict because we're so quick to take our side, to believe our truth, and we're unable in that moment then to see someone else's position. So what do? How do we fix it? We approach with curiosity. Okay? Give yourself, if you can do it right now, everybody, let's lift one eyebrow. Next time you find yourself judging a situation, consider replacing judgment with curiosity. Because what curiosity does is it allows a possibility to take over, and you might see the situation in a new light. Now, not only does this work really well when we're in those quote unquote challenging situations, it also is very helpful when we're walking down the road to delivering corrective feedback. Asking ourselves a few questions when we've seen someone violate that personal accountability. They've messed up. They didn't do what they said they were going to do. Are we hopping on and just like attacking them? No, we're approaching with curiosity. Sandra, get some like tape. We'll just get a little bit of tape and we'll tape it up. That's your homework. Everybody's takeaway today is working on eyebrows. Put both up. Be surprised. Oh my gosh, you guys just made my day for real life here. Now, Christopher Moore's Circle of Conflicts. This is our lower back tattoo moment of the day. We're all getting this pie because what it does is it helps us to focus on the actual causes of conflict, because it's not just a personality clash. Only one piece of this pie here, the blue one, is that relationship conflict. It seems to me, from my seat and maybe from my body, that we are often quick to put a name and a face, a person to the conflict. Is it possible that we're not dealing with a relationship conflict? So relationship conflicts are miscommunication, strong emotions, our passionate people, hands up here, stereotyping, repetitive negative behavior. That's a relationship issue. Now, lack of information, that's a data conflict. That's not a personality clash. And really, as leaders, should we be having personality clashes? I'm thinking we should be able to navigate all of the people. Maybe not all of the time, but working towards that. And so if we have differing views on data relevance, that's not a personality clash. A different interpretation? Nope. What about values? I had a quote unquote message discussion already this morning about values and how people can judge someone based on their values. Now, values and personality, again, not the same thing. So you take someone's religious beliefs versus someone else's religious beliefs. Does that mean they can never have a talk? What about, I didn't want to bring it up, but like the election? Okay, how many people have had some interesting discussions based on the US politics? Hello, right? Does that mean that I don't like that person because they have a differing view? No. Does it mean we have a personality clash? Well, in that case, maybe, but no. No, it's just different ways of life. Or structural, unequal authority, unequal control of resources. Oof, that can get us into trouble. And then, of course, interest conflicts, or perceived or actual conflict over the interest. So, friends, next time we're in a conflict, and we'll know because we'll probably have some feelings going on, ask yourself, is this a relationship conflict? Am I attaching a person and a name and a personality style to this conflict, or is this more about the data? And you might be surprised. So, talking more about this idea of constructive conflict, it's actually desired and expected. So we may have a differing opinion on what needs to happen, what direction should be taken, what changes would be most beneficial. Maybe I'm sick and twisted, but I love a good debate. I like to hear the different sides. I may not agree, but it's interesting to hear the different ideas. And just because this is all I know is whatever this body is all about in my mind, it's interesting to get a different view. And surprisingly, not all my ideas are the best ideas. I have many great ideas when we come into, a brainstorming or this differing opinion on how to move forward. It's neat to hear, wow, someone else has a really great idea too. And so we're choosing what is right versus our need to be right. So this is actually a creative process. So if we can flip our mind from, oh, we don't get along, to, hey, this is a creative process, we're looking at higher engagement, higher productivity. So Kelly and I were chatting just before we came on, and she had mentioned in one of her workplaces that the CEO would have, of a larger organization would come down and have coffee time. Because why? Because we want to hear from our people from all walks and all levels through the organization. Engagement, productivity. Okay. When we are looking at this constructive conflict, it forces us to take a hard look and re-examine the situation. Is there a more innovative way to solve this problem? Because often a challenging situation is attached to a problem. Now, the other side of that is this destructive conflict. It reduces our team efficiency. If we're always in that land of destructive conflict, good chance we're also living in a land of mistrust, avoidance, fear, frustration. Then what are some of those symptoms? Stress, medical leave, people leaving the workplace permanently, and definitely our communication becomes dysfunctional. Here's the remedy. Hello, respectful workplace. And what does that mean? Many of us have respectful workplace policies tucked in a binder, put on a shelf somewhere. But here's the thing, you need to put it into action. So we are responsible for acting in a respectful and professional manner, not period, at all times. As leaders, that's what we do. Others do not have to earn our respect. It's something we give freely. It's a baseline of our human interactions. We said this before, a constructive conflict is a creative process, enhances engagement and productivity. We can't get to this without a respectful workplace. Now, one thing I wanted to add before we, close off today is this idea of interest-based relational approach to conflict and to problems. And maybe you've heard of this before, IBR. When a conflict arises, it's easy for people to get entrenched in their positions. We said this already, right? I can see it from my side because that's what I see. Well, what happens? Ego blows up, tempers flare, voices rise, body language becomes defensive or aggressive. You think back to our friends from Crucial Conversations. There's a whole bunch of different authors there. One is Patterson, Crucial Conversations. They talk about what are our responses to stress, silence or violence. So that silence could even be defensiveness, sugarcoating, sarcasm, And then violence, that aggressiveness. So monologuing, over speaking people, the yellings, all of these things. And so this idea of IBR is very interesting. Let's take a look. There's 6 practices. Number 1, we might have to stay on this one for like the next hour, because we need to make sure that good relationships are a priority. If we're too concerned about being right, forcing our opinions, well, we're going to have a lot of people that are disappointed, and we may be looking at one in the mirror. Treat the other person with respect. Friends, if you could pop in the chat, what comes to mind when you hear respect? What are some of those other associated words that come for you? So we want to do our best to be courteous and discuss matters constructively. So we think about respect in the way, like, what does it sound like at work? Yeah, trust 100%. What does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it act like? For me, it's inclusive. When I'm treating someone with respect, or when I'm being treated with respect, I feel included. Respect is absolutely a baseline. Deborah, thank you. You feel safe, right? There's safety in there. I can express myself, the good, the bad, the ugly. It's courteous, civility, right? Some of these baseline things that we were taught in kindergarten. Those, if we learned these things along the way, what happened? And don't tell me puberty, because I have a couple of those right now in the home, and they're still respectful. So what happened after that? Golden rule, treat others how we want to be treated. I think that works perfect for respect, kindness. Okay. Don't get me started on golden rule, because I have another feeling about it too, because I think that sometimes we are trying to treat people how we want to be treated, and well, it doesn't always work, but definitely for respect, 100%. Give it freely. Sprinkle that stuff, right? I'm sure there's a meme somewhere with that, with some glitter, right? And respect. Now, step 2 is to be able to separate people from problems. Okay, let's all look on our backs to that circle of conflict lower back tattoo we just had done, because it helps us to realize that only one piece of that pie would be a people issue. Okay, so we pull the people out of the problem and recognize that in many cases, the other person isn't being difficult, that real and valid differences can lie behind conflicting positions. But when we separate the problem from the person, you can discuss the issues without damaging relationships. Anybody here that has received corrective feedback and came out of that with a solid relationship with the person? Pick me, I have. We can deal with those challenging situations. We can deal with these difficult things, our tough conversations, and still keep the relationship intact. It's not just a unicorn and fairy and lollipop land. This is for real. But what does it take? Leading with respect and empathy, activating curiosity, and this brilliant point of separating people from problems. Oh, Evelyn, yes, right? I know, choosing our battles, that's for sure. When I looked in the cupboard, I couldn't find any of our dishes. I'm like, well, did someone come in and rob us? We leave our house open. Why would they only take our dishes? Well, I really knew that that wasn't the problem. I knew that they were in the 15-year-old's bedroom. Am I going to freak out about that? No, I'm just going to kindly ask him to bring them up, separating the people from the problem. Oh, yeah. Maybe threats too. I don't know. Navigating these wild waters, that's for sure. The next point, we've said this 5.1 million times this morning, listen carefully, right? Now we're going to add a little bit more. We're listening carefully to different interests, even if we don't like it, even if we find it boring, even if we tried that in the past and it didn't work. Let's just hit backspace on all of that garbage and reset for every single interaction. If we're not hitting that reset button, we're carrying over garbage from, last night's discussion, or last Tuesday when we had a bad interaction with a customer or whatever, right? Something that's harmed us. We're now like hauling that around and spreading it to everybody else. No, hit the reset. Every interaction, hit the reset button. Now, go on to say here, you'll get a better grasp of why people have adopted their position if you try to understand their point of view. We're still, you guys have heard me say it once, you've heard me say it 1,000 times, we're still that little kid inside of us going, but why, but why, but why? And so when we understand the why do they have that position? Oh, magical things are going to happen. Next up, listen first, talk second. Yeah, we're still on listening. See how there's out of these 6 points, we got 2 definitely, even with the word listen in them. You should listen to what the other person is saying before defending your own position. And even in your mind, oh, this is the hardest part, right? Because maybe we've already set up in our mind how we're going to respond to this problem. And we're already answering before they even get a chance to say their side. Here's the thing. Let's insert, is it possible? Is it possible that they might say something that changes your mind? I'm going to answer for you. The answer is yes, it is possible. So being, especially for those chatties, looking in the mirror, simmer it down and listen first. Set out the facts. So this is kind of fun. I think of it as sifting, like we're panning for gold, essentially. We're setting out the facts. We're deciding on the observable facts that might impact your decision together. It's kind of funny when we're giving corrective feedback, if we're coming in hot, for example, we're coming in the heat of the moment, we're worked up, we didn't take 5 seconds to calm down and hit the reset button. What can happen then is we end up saying something like, you're always late, you don't care about your job, versus, hey, Tiffany, I noticed this past month you were late 3 times. Can we talk about it? Hello, bit of a difference, right? So setting out those facts, making sure that it's things that are observable and not just the stories that we tell ourselves. Oh, save those for your journal. Oh, and by the way, are we still journaling, everyone? I hope so. It's a great way for us to understand ourselves a lot better. Now, I know, I did one last week because I promised I would. Evelyn, are we going to make a pact? Is today the day? I want to. I know. Self-reflection, self-awareness. You know, it's interesting. We've just wrapped up our HR toolkit yesterday. And for those of you that were there, thank you. Those of you that wanted to be there, sign up for our next one. But I'm going to give you a little warning. There's a lot of self-reflection and there's a lot of work that happens in that self-reflection. So our journaling can help us to understand ourselves better. Yes, definitely, right? Ugh, so much work. So worth it. Now, this idea of exploring options together, be open to the idea that a third position may exist. Have you guys heard that saying? What is it? I'm right, you're right, and then there's the truth. Here's the thing. If we have this open communication, which I'm telling you is possible, and if you're like, whatever, Carrie, this never happens, I'm telling you it is possible. Okay? Trust me. I am testifying to you in this moment. You might even reach it jointly. Yes, there will be angels singing. There will be a rainbow that appears in the sky. There'll be candy falling from the clouds. Like, it'll be amazing, but you can. This is possible. And especially if we become more empathetic when dealing with our difficult situations. When conflict is handled properly, interest and energy is increased. You will see teams become more dynamic and cohesive, energized, engaged, and enabled. Talk a lot about employee engagement and leadership. That's one part of it. Okay, so when we're seeing a lack of engagement, friends, that's not the problem. There's a deeper problem. That's like the iceberg, right? If we're seeing disengagement, that's the top of the iceberg. What's happening underneath? Okay, and those are the things we need to discover. Now, the second part of that, engaged, is to be enabled. So to enable our employees means we remove those barriers so that they can go and do their job, what they were built to do, those talent, skills, and abilities that they have. And guess what? Pop the mirror up and say the same thing for yourself. Right? Am I disengaged? Why? Do I feel enabled or disenabled? Why? And that could be maybe one of our journal entries. Why am I feeling this way? We talk about in emotional intelligence that need for self-motivation. Nobody can motivate you. That's an inside job. Ooh, hard truths, hey? I want to thank you guys for your comments today. I wanted to also leave us with some beautiful words from the late Dr. Wayne Dyer. Oh, don't we just love him? Conflict cannot survive without your participation. So will we make it dysfunctional, or are we going to make it a functional conflict where we can open our minds to creativity, possibility, empathy, and all of those great clear communication things? Friends, lots of good stuff coming up on the calendar. You won't want to miss. Some of them we have to cap the class. So if you want in on HR Toolkit, transition to leadership, now is the time to let us know. Hop into weminterlake.ca. Oh, yes. Yes, I hear you, Evelyn, definitely. Okay, well, come back. We would love to do this as an expanded course as well, handling challenging situations, or bring it into your workplace. That's another thing we can do. So if you're interested, let us know. Thanks, Becky. Thanks, everybody. Go forth and be awesome, my friends. I hope you have a wonderful day.